Okay, now that we know that we have to have the same units to measure with, we're going to practice using a couple of non-standard measurements and our standard measurements. The first one we're going to use is one of these unit cubes or a snap cube. You have these in your packets that we sent home, so they weren't sent home for you to play with. They're for you to measure with over the next couple of weeks. So what we're going to do is when you're using your non-standard unit of measure is you're going to put it up against the item that you're going to measure. And I know it's a little hard to see, but I have it right next to it, okay? I really do. And so then I'm going to count how many of those it takes to find the length of these Clorox disinfecting wipes. Okay, so they're gonna roll. Hold it for me. Here we go. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it takes about 8. It didn't make it all the way to the end, but when we're using our non-standard, we're really just finding an estimate. Thank you, Miss Mo, for holding that for me. Do you mind holding it again?
I have to wash
for
my
this
hands
one?
first.
Okay, wash your hands for 20 seconds. I'm watching the timer. Get in between your fingers and up the wrist a little bit too, and the back of your hands. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, will you hold it again now?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to use a paper clip. I'm going to line it up. This is hard to see. Okay, make sure you're lining it up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it took 6 paper clips and 8 unit cubes. So 2 different ways to measure, but if we were to use this same unit cube, we can compare it against another item to measure to see the length. So this time, we're going to measure this Charlotte's Web book. This is also in your packet. We sent this home. We're going to be reading it over the next few weeks. Let's do it just short ways like this. And this one is a lot easier to do than that cylinder was. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I would say 6.5, but right now we're not going to worry about halves, okay? So you can say 7 if you want to. We'll get a little bit more specific as we do measuring later on. Miss Mo, did you notice something I was doing?
I did.
I was going like that, and then instead of just going like that, I put my finger down.
I think that was a more accurate measurement.
Yes, and so that's called iterate. And so we're going to iterate on the paper clip also. So that just means that we're going to make sure that we have it lined up really well, okay? All right, so with the paper clips, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit left over, okay? So, but I think there's a better way to measure. This is an easy way to measure just to compare 2 things, like the length of 2 items, the disinfecting wipes, and the Charlotte's Web book. But Miss Mo, do you want to show us our standard way of measurement?
Absolutely.
You want me to hold your wipes for you?
It's okay. I think I got it.
Okay.
All right, so we are going to use your ruler. Now, we have measured some with our standard ruler when we did some science experiments earlier in the year, but we have not really taken hold of measuring with a ruler. So first of all, just to remind you, there are 2 sides to your ruler. This side is the inches. There are 12 inches in a foot. This is the standard unit of measure. And then on the other side of most rulers, yours may not have centimeters also, but is the centimeters. That is the metric system, which is used by most of the world. And you're gonna be doing a lot of that in 3rd grade with centimeters. So be prepared for that, that we're gonna be measuring in inches and in centimeters. So that's something that you need to understand. All right, now we're gonna start with inches. So we're gonna start with our Clorox wipes. And what I typically do, she measured it this way before, but I am going to line it up at the 0. Now make sure that you can see where the 0 is. I don't know if y'all can see this, but this doesn't say 0, but it is the very first long line. That is the 0. You cannot start at the 1. That will not be the correct unit of measure. So you have to start with the 0, where my thumbnail is. Okay, so we are going to line up the Clorox wipes right on that end line. So we're gonna do that. It doesn't look like it is right from the video, but I promise you it is right at the 0. Can you look at that, Miss Turner? Look how it doesn't look like it's at the end. But it actually is. So maybe I can do it like this. Let's do it like this where they can see. It is actually at the very end. Now, when we follow it across, it is on a little past the 8. It's not to the half. It's not to the half. So we are going to estimate, and we are going to round to the nearest inch, which y'all haven't learned rounding yet, and that's okay, but it is closer to 8 inches.
That's so much easier
So
and more
much
accurate
easier.
than using the unit cube and the
It
paperclip.
is much easier. Now, let's do the same thing for our Charlotte's Web book. We are doing the width of the book, and it is almost exactly 5 inches. But what I need to do is make sure that line is starting right at the 0. Now, if we started here, say our ruler was broken, and all that we had was one that was started at 3. We'll learn about this later, the broken ruler method, but you could still start at 0 here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 either way. Either way. It's about 5 inches, just a little bit over that.
Now, what about centimeters? Will it be a different number?
Yes, it will, because centimeters are much smaller. And there are 30 centimeters in about the same area as a foot, 12 inches.
So what is it in centimeters?
So in centimeters, we're going to once again start on the 0, and we will follow it across, and it's just a tiny, tiny bit over the 13. So it is 13 centimeters. Look at where the end is. You have to follow it down. It is right at about 13 centimeters.
Oh, and centimeters are smaller than inches.
They are smaller
and so
than
there's more of
inches.
them, just like in fractions we just did. There's more parts.
All right.
Very interesting.
So thank you, Miss Turner,
Thank you,
for letting
Miss
us
Mo.
using that.